My name is Mike, and I've been delivering food for Eats Express for a couple of years now. Most nights were pretty routine, but there was this one night that still gives me nightmares. It was a cold, stormy evening, with rain lashing against my windshield as I navigated the city's maze of streets. I received an order from an unfamiliar address, 666 Elm Street. The number alone sent shivers down my spine, but I brushed it off as superstition. I couldn't let a little fear stop me from making my living. The rain seemed to intensify as I approached Elm Street, creating an eerie symphony of drumming on my car's roof. The neighborhood I was entering was ominous, to say the least. The street was lined with ancient trees that loomed overhead, their gnarled branches clawing at the sky. The houses along the street were dilapidated, their windows shattered or boarded up, and there wasn't a soul in sight. As I turned onto Elm Street, my unease grew. The fog had rolled in thick and fast, obscuring the road ahead like a white wall. My headlights cut through the haze, casting eerie shadows that danced and swirled. It felt like I was entering a different realm, one far removed from the familiar cityscape I knew. Finally, I reached 666 Elm Street. It was a decrepit, Gothic mansion that looked like something straight out of a horror movie. The wrought iron gate leading to the property was rusted and creaking in the wind. The front door was massive, wooden, and menacing, with intricate carvings of twisted faces and grotesque creatures. My heart raced as I parked my car in front of the mansion. Rain dripped from the overhanging trees, adding to the chilling atmosphere. The front door, as if guided by an invisible hand, creaked open slowly on its own, revealing a pitch-black interior. A voice whispered through the darkness, its words barely audible, but filled with an unsettling tone. "Come in, delivery boy." I hesitated for a moment, my instincts screaming at me to flee, but I couldn't afford to lose the tip on this order. So, with trembling hands, I grabbed the bag of food and took a cautious step toward the sinister threshold of 666 Elm Street. I stepped into the room cautiously, the flickering candles casting eerie shadows on the walls. The walls were adorned with unsettling paintings of grotesque creatures, and the air was thick with the stench of decay. In the center of the room, the long black table dominated the space. It seemed to stretch on endlessly, covered with a blood-red velvet cloth that dripped ominously onto the floor. The candles placed haphazardly along the table's length cast a dim, flickering light, making it difficult to see the faces of those gathered around it. The figures in the room, cloaked in hooded robes, sat in silence, their faces hidden in the depths of their hoods. The chanting grew louder as I approached, a chilling chorus that reverberated through the room. The sound sent shivers down my spine, and I could feel the anxiety welling up inside me. At the head of the table, the person who had placed the order sat, their hood drawn back just enough to reveal a sinister grin. Their face was pallid, almost corpse-like, with eyes that seemed to pierce through my very soul. They extended a long, bony hand, their fingers adorned with strange, ornate rings. With trembling hands, I placed the bag of food in front of them. The contents seemed far from ordinary takeout. It was as if the food had been carefully arranged to resemble something much more macabre. The meaty chunks in their order looked disturbingly similar to human flesh, and my stomach churned with revulsion. The person at the head of the table slowly unwrapped the meal, revealing the grotesque contents. They picked up a piece with their bony fingers and took a bite, their eyes never leaving mine. It was then that the reality of the situation hit me. I might have unwittingly walked into a nightmarish cult gathering, and my sense of dread deepened. As they continued to eat, the others around the table began to mutter in a language I couldn't comprehend. their voices filled with an unsettling blend of reverence and malevolence. Panic surged through me, and I knew I had to escape this unholy gathering before it was too late. I knew I had to get out of there, but as I turned to leave, the room fell silent, and all eyes were on me. The person at the head of the table spoke again, their voice dripping with malice. "You can't leave now. You've been chosen." The hooded figures surrounding me began to advance, their steps slow and deliberate. Panic surged through me, and I took a step back, my eyes darting around the room for any possible escape route. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls, adding to the surreal horror of the moment. One of the figures, tall and imposing, reached out to grab my arm. I twisted away with all the strength I could muster, breaking free from their grasp. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as I made a dash for the door, my heart pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. The room erupted into chaos. The hooded figures shouted and cursed as they pursued me through the dimly lit hallways. I could hear their footsteps echoing behind me, growing closer with each passing moment. My breath came in ragged gasps as I pushed my body to its limits, racing through the labyrinthine mansion. Rain was still pouring outside as I burst through the mansion's front door, the cold, wet night air hitting me like a slap in the face. I fumbled for my car keys, my hands trembling. The ground was slick with rain, and I struggled to maintain my footing as I sprinted to my car. As I fumbled to get the key into the ignition, I could hear the voices of the hooded figures getting closer. Desperation fueled my movements, and with a final, desperate twist of the key, the engine roared to life. I slammed my foot on the gas pedal and peeled out of the driveway, not daring to look back. My heart was still pounding, and my mind was a whirlwind of fear and confusion as I sped away from that accursed mansion. The memory of that night haunts me, the thought of what might have happened if I hadn't escaped. I reported the incident to the police, but they found nothing at 666 Elm Street, just an abandoned house. To this day, I wonder if it was a sinister prank or something much darker. I've since quit my job as a delivery boy, unable to shake the feeling that evil still lurks in the shadows, waiting for its next unsuspecting victim.